Picture the opening sequence. A tight, intimate shot of a tired face illuminated solely by the harsh, cold glow of a smartphone screen at 2 a.m. The thumb scrolls mindlessly, a physical manifestation of mental fatigue, until a specific video forces it to stop. A booming, authoritative voice commands immediate attention. God says, check your bank account balance after seeing this video. Ethereal, resonant music swells in the background. For a fleeting second, the heavy exhaustion in the viewer's eyes is replaced by a desperate, flickering spark of hope. What if, just this once, a miracle is actually real? This visual isn't merely a dramatic recreation. It captures a profound daily reality for countless individuals navigating the crushing, isolating weight of financial anxiety. We are currently living in an era where economic uncertainty frequently breeds deep psychological vulnerability. When people are pushed to the brink facing mounting debts, the stress of providing for a family, and the sheer, grinding exhaustion of everyday survival, the human brain instinctively seeks an escape hatch. It is precisely within this fragile, cognitively overloaded mental state that modern digital get-rich-quick spiritual cults find their perfect audience. These content creators are not simply peddling financial strategies, they are weaponizing human hope. By meticulously wrapping empty, impossible promises in the sacred, untouchable language of divine intervention, they successfully bypass the logical, critical thinking centers of the brain. The temptation of a heavenly promise becomes irresistible. This happens not because the viewer lacks intelligence, but because their emotional coping mechanisms are entirely depleted. They are yearning for a deus ex machina, a sudden divine resolution to an unsolvable conflict, even if that savior is nothing more than a heavily edited, algorithmically optimized video on their feed. The phenomenon of digital, spiritual, financial manipulation is a terrifyingly effective masterclass in dark behavioral psychology. The scripts driving these videos are far from random, impassioned ramblings. Instead, they are highly engineered emotional funnels, calculated to exploit the deepest human insecurities. They seamlessly blend the comforting authority of a higher power with the urgent, adrenaline-pumping aesthetics of a breaking news alert. But how exactly do these digital mirages operate on a cognitive level? How do they hook a skeptical, guarded mind, systematically dismantle its natural defenses, and ultimately compel an individual to surrender their time, their digital engagement, and often their actual money? In the following exploration, we are going to dissect the anatomy of these predatory scripts scene by scene. We will peel back the carefully constructed layers of a typical spiritual wealth narrative to reveal the raw psychological triggers hidden beneath the surface. From the calculated use of an authoritative hook to the subtle, gradual implementation of micro-commitments and pseudo-scientific jargon, we will explore exactly how these creators manipulate human behavior. By understanding the intricate mechanics of this psychological trap, we can begin to build a robust cognitive immunity against it. This journey is not merely an analysis of an unethical marketing gimmick. It is a profound exploration of human vulnerability and the undeniable power of weaponized words on our psyche. Let us begin the autopsy of a digital illusion. To understand why a viewer might sit through a lengthy, repetitive video promising a sudden influx of wealth, we must look beyond the screen and into the architecture of the human mind under duress. The architects of these manipulative narratives are essentially reverse engineering human psychology. They understand that to capture and hold a viewer's attention to achieve maximum audience retention in a sea of digital noise, they cannot appeal to logic. Instead, they must target the primal, emotional centers of the brain. The script becomes a carefully paced sequence of emotional beats designed to exploit the delicate balance between crushing despair and intoxicating hope. The foundation of this psychological trap relies on identifying and targeting an audience already experiencing extreme cognitive overload. When an individual is engulfed in chronic financial stress, their brain is constantly operating in survival mode. The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for rational decision-making, critical thinking, and long-term planning, becomes severely depleted. In its place, the amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, takes the wheel. In narrative terms, the viewer is already at the lowest point of their character arc. The script exploits this vulnerability by offering a mechanism of cognitive ease. Navigating out of severe debt in reality requires years of disciplined budgeting, grueling work, and complex financial restructuring, a monumental cognitive load. In stark contrast, the video presents a 7-second mental ritual or a simple act of typing, "Amen." This is a classic psychological coping mechanism at play. When faced with an insurmountable problem, the exhausted mind naturally gravitates toward the path of least resistance. The scriptwriters know that a desperate brain does not want a practical spreadsheet, it wants a magical shortcut. By feeding the viewer an effortless solution, the video bypasses critical analysis and floods the brain with a premature rush of dopamine, creating a powerful, addictive loop of anticipation. Once the viewer's logical defenses are lowered, the script must establish absolute trust to compel action. It achieves this through a masterful exploitation of the halo effect, a cognitive bias where our overall impression of a person, entity, or concept influences how we feel about their specific traits. In the text we analyzed, the creator employs a fascinating dual-layered authority structure to maximize their demographic reach. Divine authority, by opening with "God says," and utilizing religious terminology like blessings, sanctuary, and divine mission, the script cloaks itself in sacred invulnerability. For a viewer with a religious background, questioning the video feels tantamount to questioning their own faith. The creator positions themselves merely as a conduit for a higher power, shielding the actual content from logical scrutiny. Pseudo-scientific authority. Abruptly, the script shifts gears, introducing a shocking CIA leak and validation from 4 top neuroscience labs. This is a calculated narrative pivot designed to capture the secular or skeptical viewer. If the divine angle fails to hook them, the facade of institutional secrecy and cutting-edge brain science provides a rationalization for their hope. By weaving these two disparate authorities together, the creator casts a massive psychological net. The viewer is caught in a meticulously designed scene where the ultimate powers of the universe, both spiritual and governmental, are supposedly aligning specifically for their financial benefit. It is an intoxicating narrative that makes the viewer feel uniquely chosen and protected. A truly effective, manipulative script does not just offer rewards. It carefully orchestrates an emotional roller coaster, utilizing a push-pull dynamic that keeps the viewer entirely captivated. This is achieved by weaponizing 2 opposing psychological forces: the profound need for emotional safety and the intense fear of missing out, FOMO. The promise of safety. The script spends a significant amount of time validating the viewer's past struggles. Phrases like, "I saw you struggle, pray, and hold on when you wanted to give up," build profound parasocial empathy. The creator speaks directly into the camera, acting as an omniscient, benevolent figure offering peace, stability, and a release from anxiety. For someone drowning in real-world pressure, this virtual sanctuary is incredibly seductive. It provides the emotional release they have been craving. The activation of scarcity. FOMO. To prevent the viewer from simply feeling good and scrolling away, the script injects artificial urgency, The narrative introduces a ticking clock. The government could reveal this secret at any time, before it is gone for good, and commands the viewer not to skip even a single moment. This combination creates a state of intense psychological dissonance. The viewer is lulled into a state of hypnotic comfort, only to be jolted by the threat of losing this newfound salvation if they do not comply immediately. This tension must be resolved, and the script conveniently provides the only outlet for that resolution. The call to action, CTA. Whether it is clicking a link, typing a sequence of numbers, or eventually opening their wallet to sow a seed, the viewer acts not out of rational choice, but out of a desperate need to secure the narrative's promised ending. Ultimately, the psychology of despair and hope is treated not as a human tragedy, but as raw material to be molded. By mapping out the viewer's pain points and systematically feeding them perfectly timed emotional cues, these scripts transform vulnerability into a highly predictable and highly profitable behavioral response. Having established the fragile psychological state of the target audience, we must now turn our analytical lens to the actual script. The text in question is not merely a collection of hopeful phrases, it is a meticulously crafted linguistic weapon. Every sentence, every pause, and every command is engineered to guide the viewer down a highly specific behavioral funnel. By dissecting the script, scene by scene, we can observe exactly how language is weaponized to dismantle logical defenses, secure compliance, and ultimately drive the viewer toward financial extraction. Here is the breakdown of the three primary structural scenes that make up this manipulative masterpiece. Scene 1. The hook, breaking down defensive barriers. The opening moments of the video are critical. In the digital age, a creator has less than 3 seconds to stop a user from scrolling away. Therefore, the hook must be disruptive, authoritative, and intensely personal. The shock value of divine financial intervention. The script wastes zero time, immediately asserting a staggering claim. God says check your bank account balance after seeing this video. By pairing the ultimate spiritual authority, God, with the ultimate source of modern anxiety, bank account balance, the creator instantly demands attention. This is not a vague promise of future prosperity. It is an urgent, highly specific directive. It implies that a miraculous transaction has already occurred behind the scenes, effectively bypassing the viewer's rational understanding of how banking works. The paradox of do not get shocked. Immediately following this revelation, the creator employs a brilliant piece of reverse psychology. Do not get shocked after seeing your balance. While ostensibly framed as a calming directive, this phrase actually acts as a powerful adrenaline trigger. Telling someone not to be shocked plants the undeniable suggestion that there is something incredibly shocking waiting for them. It forces the viewer's brain to conjure up images of a massive, life-changing sum of money. Before the viewer has even checked their account, their brain is already being flooded with dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward anticipation, cultivating a parasocial bond. To keep the viewer watching, the creator quickly establishes a deep, artificially intimate bond. The script uses language that suggests a long-standing, watchful relationship. I have been working behind the scenes for you in ways you could not see. This preys on the viewer's feelings of isolation and neglect. By assuring the viewer that their unseen struggles have been witnessed and validated by a higher power, the creator breaks down defensive walls of skepticism. The viewer wants to believe they have a powerful advocate, making them incredibly receptive to whatever instructions follow. Scene 2. Hypnotic loops and micro-commitments. Once the hook has secured the viewer's attention and lowered their defenses, the script transitions into its second phase, behavioral conditioning. This is where the creator transforms a passive observer into an active, compliant participant. The psychology of the micro-commitment. Throughout the script, the creator strategically places small, seemingly harmless requests for interaction. We see commands like, type Amen if you believe, if you walk by faith, type 111, and type 777 to get good luck. In marketing psychology, this is known as a micro-commitment. By asking the viewer to perform a low-friction action, typing a word, or a sequence of numbers, the creator is initiating a pattern of compliance. When a person agrees to a small request, they are psychologically priming themselves to agree to larger, more significant requests later on, a phenomenon known as the foot-in-the-door technique. Furthermore, typing these angel numbers or affirmations publicly in the comments section creates a sense of visible, communal investment. The viewer is no longer just watching, they are actively co-creating the magic of the ritual, making it far harder for them to walk away. Linguistic trances and emotional anchoring. The structure of the text also mimics hypnotic induction. The creator frequently uses rhythmic, repetitive pacing and soothing directives to anchor the viewer's emotions. Phrases instructing the viewer to stay calm or take a moment to breathe and look at your balance are scattered throughout the narrative. This creates a pendulum effect. The creator spikes the viewer's adrenaline with promises of sudden wealth, and then immediately steps in as the soothing voice of reason, guiding them to breathe. This emotional anchoring creates dependency. The viewer begins to subconsciously rely on the creator's voice to regulate their emotional state. As the script repeats these cycles of excitement and forced calm, it induces a trance-like state, effectively shutting down the prefrontal cortex and leaving the viewer entirely susceptible to the final, critical phase of the funnel. Scene 3. The blending of religion and pseudoscience. Perhaps the most fascinating and bizarre element of this manipulative script is its jarring stylistic pivot in the final act. Just as the viewer is deeply immersed in the language of divine providence and spiritual faith, the narrative violently shifts into the realm of modern conspiracy and pseudoscience. Casting a wider net, from God to the CIA. After spending minutes establishing a narrative about God moving behind the scenes, the script suddenly introduces an entirely different paradigm. A shocking CIA leak just came to light about a 7-second ritual that regular people can use to get rid of debt. It goes on to claim that 4 top neuroscience labs have confirmed that this simple at-home method is helping people. From a logical standpoint, this pivot is utterly absurd. Why would a divine miracle, ordained by God, require a 7-second brainwave hack leaked by the Central Intelligence Agency? However, from a psychological manipulation standpoint, this is a masterstroke of net casting. The creator understands that their audience is diverse. Some viewers are highly motivated by traditional religious faith. For them, the language of blessings and lost souls works perfectly. But what about the viewers whose faith is wavering, or those who are more secularly minded? By abruptly introducing the CIA, government cover-ups, and neuroscience labs, the creator provides a secular, quasi-scientific rationalization for the exact same magical thinking, validating the absurd through conspiracy. By positioning this wealth-generating secret as something the government could reveal at any time before it is gone for good, the creator triggers a powerful anti-establishment bias. Conspiracy theories thrive on the idea that elites are hiding life-changing information from the masses. By claiming that both the divine realm and top-secret government agencies are utilizing these brainwave rituals, the script manufactures an overwhelming multi-layered illusion of authority. The fact that the viewer accepts this massive cognitive dissonance that God's divine plan is somehow tied to a CIA brainwave hack proves that the earlier phases of the script were successful. Their critical thinking has been entirely bypassed. They are no longer analyzing the how or the why. They are completely fixated on the reward. The final trap: monetizing the manipulation. All of this elaborate linguistic architecture serves one singular purpose: the monetization of the viewer's compliance. The micro-commitments, type 111, and the hypnotic soothing ultimately lead to the real call to action. The script shifts from offering free miracles to demanding a transaction to keep the miracle alive. The creator frames this financial extraction in deeply manipulative terms. They do not ask for a purchase. They invite the viewer to plant your seed in fertile ground, explicitly stating that every seed you plant turns into light that fights against darkness. Whether it is buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member, or purchasing guided ebooks and Bibles, the act of spending money is reframed as a necessary step in a divine mission. By the time the viewer reaches this point, they have been psychologically battered, emotionally uplifted, hypnotized by micro-commitments, and convinced that a supernatural, scientific windfall is just one click away. The anatomy of the script is complete, successfully transforming a desperate viewer's digital engagement into tangible, financial profit for the creator. The transition from digital engagement to financial extraction reveals the most insidious aspect of these manipulative videos: the weaponization of belief. When creators intertwine promises of sudden wealth with the sacred language of divinity, they give rise to a toxic phenomenon known as commercial spirituality. This is not merely a modern iteration of a financial scam. It is a profound violation of psychological and spiritual boundaries. By commodifying faith, these scripts inflict severe, long-lasting damage on a victim's mental health, financial stability, and worldview. The distortion of sacred values. At the core of commercial spirituality is the systematic distortion of genuine religious and spiritual values to serve a purely transactional agenda. In a healthy spiritual context, faith is generally understood as an internal state of grace, resilience, or moral alignment. However, in this manipulated ecosystem, faith is reduced to a currency, one that must be actively spent to activate divine favor. The script explicitly links financial donations to spiritual salvation and personal destiny. The creator urges the viewer to plant your seed in fertile ground, immediately reframing the act of giving money as a necessary spiritual mechanism. This effectively transforms financial extortion into a divine duty. By framing these transactions, whether buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member, as vital support for a divine mission to save lost souls, the creator places an unbearable moral weight on the target audience. A simple financial request is elevated into a cosmic battle where every seed turns into light that fights against darkness. The script further commodifies traditional religious elements by offering guided ebooks and Bibles alongside exclusive membership tiers as the keys to amplifying this divine light. This is a masterful perversion of theology, heavily borrowing from the controversial prosperity gospel. The viewer is manipulated into believing that God's grace is locked behind a paywall, and their long-awaited financial breakthrough is entirely conditional upon their willingness to transfer funds to the creator. The psychological fallout, disillusionment and manufactured guilt. When the promised miracle inevitably fails to materialize, when the bank account balance remains unchanged after the video ends, the psychological consequences for the victim are devastating. This fallout can be described as a severe form of disillusionment syndrome. The victim does not merely lose money or time, they experience a shattering of their spiritual anchor and their hope for the future. The script is brilliantly, albeit cruelly, designed to preemptively shift the blame onto the viewer if the financial windfall does not occur. Early in the narrative, the creator explicitly warns that Disbelief leads to shock, and disbelief can stop something from getting better. This installs a toxic psychological trap. If the viewer's reality does not magically improve, they are preconditioned to believe that their own internal doubt blocked the miracle. The script reinforces this by demanding that the viewer must walk by faith and hold on even when things do not make sense. Instead of realizing they have been defrauded by a manipulative algorithm, the individual internalizes the failure. They believe they are unworthy of God's grace, or that their faith was simply too weak to manifest the blessing. This intense, manufactured guilt often leads to profound depression. Victims feel deeply ashamed of both their perceived spiritual inadequacy and their financial gullibility. This shame breeds silence. They isolate themselves, becoming completely unwilling to share their experiences or seek help from family members, friends, or legitimate mental health professionals out of fear of judgment. The endless cycle of manipulation. This self-blame feeds directly into the manipulator's ultimate goal, creating an endless, closed-loop cycle of emotional and financial extraction. The anatomy of this manipulation operates on a perpetual timeline of promise, expectation, disappointment, and new bait. To ensure the victim never fully wakes up from the illusion, the script is purposefully open-ended. The creator assures the viewer that the lack of immediate physical evidence means nothing, stating that this is just the start of a flow that has been set off in your favor. By asserting that certain events are still coming together, moving and getting ready for you, the creator ensures that the timeline for the miracle is infinitely delayed. When the immediate payout fails, the victim is emotionally primed to consume the creator's next video, hoping that this time their faith will finally be strong enough. The script also attempts to pull the isolated victim into a controlled echo chamber by inviting them into a community of like-minded believers where they can supposedly receive unwavering support on our prayer wall. By migrating the victim from a public platform into an exclusive community, the creator cuts off external, dissenting voices. The victim is surrounded only by others trapped in the same cycle of desperate expectation, reinforcing the delusion. Ultimately, commercial spirituality does not offer a lifeline. It throws an anchor to a drowning person. It exploits the human necessity for hope during times of crisis, draining the victim's resources while leaving them psychologically fractured and trapped in an endless waiting room for a miracle that was never designed to arrive. While the psychological architecture of these manipulative scripts is undeniably sophisticated, the human mind is not defenseless. The antidote to emotional exploitation is cognitive awareness. Breaking free from the gravitational pull of commercial spirituality and get-rich-quick illusions requires a conscious, deliberate shift in how we consume digital information. It demands that we build a robust psychological immune system, transitioning from passive, emotional consumers to active, critical thinkers. By understanding the mechanics of the trap, we can step out of the illusion and begin the difficult, yet deeply rewarding, work of authentic self-improvement. Equipping the mind with critical thinking, the most powerful weapon against digital manipulation is the simple act of pausing. Manipulative scripts are specifically designed to eliminate the space between stimulus and response. They employ intense urgency, commanding the viewer not to skip even a single moment, creating an artificial environment where immediate compliance feels like a matter of spiritual or financial survival. To dismantle this, the viewer must deliberately insert a pause. When confronted with content that triggers an intense emotional reaction, whether it is a surge of euphoric hope or a spike of anxious urgency, we must learn to step back and apply the Socratic method to our own digital consumption. This involves asking a series of grounding, logical questions. Questioning the premise, Evaluate the core claim for logical consistency. For instance, the script claims that a shocking CIA leak has revealed a 7-second ritual to attract unlimited wealth. If a government intelligence agency truly possessed a closely guarded secret to eliminate global debt, why is it being freely advertised on a public video platform? Why is the solution hidden behind a link in the description and comments, rather than being covered by legitimate, verifiable news outlets? Recognizing this inherent absurdity shatters the illusion of authority. Identifying the mechanism of urgency, ask why the creator is rushing you. The threat that the government could reveal this secret at any time before it is gone for good is a classic scarcity tactic. Genuine truth, true spiritual wisdom, and sound financial advice do not have an expiration date. If someone is rushing you into a decision or a transaction, it is almost always because they know that if you take time to think logically, you will walk away. Tracing the benefit, always ask, who ultimately profits from my action? The script asks the viewer to type 777 for good luck, or to prove their faith by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member. While these actions are framed as steps toward the viewer's divine abundance, the only guaranteed transfer of wealth is from the viewer's pocket to the creator's bank account. Recognizing the underlying transactional nature of the content strips away its spiritual camouflage. Embracing authentic personal development. Once the illusion is shattered, the next crucial step is redefining what genuine growth looks like. Manipulative scripts thrive because they offer a painless shortcut, a 7-second mental ritual to magically erase the profound stress of debt. Authentic personal development, however, requires us to face the uncomfortable reality that there are no supernatural shortcuts to complex, real-world problems. True financial and emotional stability is not achieved by typing a sequence of numbers into a comment section. It is built through slow, deliberate, and often unglamorous actions. It requires financial literacy, learning how to budget, understanding compound interest, confronting the reality of one's debts, and making sustainable lifestyle adjustments. It requires emotional regulation, learning how to manage the crushing anxiety of poverty without seeking refuge in digital fantasies. Furthermore, we must reevaluate our definition of faith and spirituality. A healthy spiritual life should empower an individual, providing inner resilience, moral clarity, and the strength to face life's hardships head-on. It should not render a person passive, waiting for a miraculous deposit to appear in their bank account while they transfer their hard-earned money to a digital guru promising a divine mission. Authentic growth means reclaiming responsibility for your own life trajectory, recognizing that while you may not control your circumstances, you absolutely control your response to them. A humane call to action. Reclaiming your agency. The journey out of the manipulative echo chamber ends with a new, humane call to action, one that does not ask for your money, your blind obedience, or your submission to a false authority. It is a call to rebuild your support systems in the real world. Those who fall prey to these scripts are often deeply isolated. The creator preys on this by offering a fake digital sanctuary. The true countermeasure is to cultivate genuine offline connections. Share your financial struggles with trusted friends, family members, or legitimate financial counselors. Seek professional mental health support if the burden of anxiety becomes too heavy to bear. Vulnerability in a safe, real-world environment dissolves the shame that these manipulators rely upon to keep their victims silent. Ultimately, the most profound realization one can reach is that true power does not reside in a leaked CIA document, a hidden algorithm, or the empty promises of a digital prophet. True power is the agency you hold over your own mind. It is the ability to look at a highly engineered, emotionally manipulative script and simply scroll past it, By choosing critical thinking over blind hope and deliberate action over magical passivity, you cease to be a target. You become the active author of your own reality, building a future founded not on digital illusions, but on the unshakable ground of truth, discipline, and authentic self-worth.